which is the middle of the story, and eventually we create our falling action, which is wrapping up the loose ends. All of the things that happen early in the rising action, in the falling action, we will bring closure to those events. We will bring closure to those circumstances. When we bring closure to them, there are two different ways that you can bring closure, and that is what this class is about. So by the end of the class, you are supposed to understand the different endings, create endings based on the genre you chose, and use techniques to create effective endings. The two types of endings that you will know is an open ending and a closed ending. Now, an open ending is where the growth of the character is observed, but the future details are not specified. This ending is impressionistic. Remember, we spoke about impressionistic narrative. It deals with feelings, right? To leave an impression. It is to impress your readers. It is to impress upon them whatever feeling that you need to focus on. Be quiet. And it is based on the mood, the growth, the psychological observation of the character. It focuses on the moral of the theme and the values the character has learned. So an example of an open ending would be Susie walked away filled with a sense of hope and faith in her own abilities to overcome challenges. Did it say Susie overcame the challenge? No. Did it say Susie won the money? She bought a house for her mother. They live happily ever after. She bought a big Jeep. Everybody was happy. Money run things. Susie lived good. No. It speaks more about the character of Susie and the characteristic that she has of faith and hope. Her faithfulness in God, her faithfulness in her own abilities. Her hope of a better future based on her new ability to overcome. That growth that would have hindered Susie has now been evident in her psyche, in her way of thinking. The narrative at the end of an open ending will always be impressionistic. And when we say we are creating an effective ending, it means that the ending must create the same sense of emotion in our audience. So when you think about hope and faith, you have to give your audience that same sense of hope and faith in themselves by showing them how mirroring reality, right? So when you think of a mirror, you think of an image, and that's what a closed ending does. It presents to you an image. It gives you a dream or a fantasy to walk towards. So whereas with the impressionistic narrative, we are trying to instill a certain feeling, a certain value through the moral of the story. In a closed ending, we are instilling an image, right? So the ending is mimetic. It focuses. You're making a lot of noise with these things. Sit back and fold your arms for me, please. Sit back. Sit back. The future events are outlined or implied. So an example of that would be Susie walked into her new job, smiling brightly at the sight of her name boldly printed on her office door. This was the happily ever after ending she dreamed of for herself. So Susie get the job. Susie is in the office. We see the office. We see the name in the office. We see the image of success that is printed there on the door. Now with open endings, some stories work well with open endings. Action and adventure stories do not work well with open endings. We need to know how the hero won. We need to know how the villain lost. We need to know what is the prize in the end. We need to know what is the outcome. So if you're writing an action and adventure story, closed endings are the best endings for action and adventure. Now on the opposite end of action and adventure, which is very unrealistic and out of this world, we have contemporary fiction, right? The contemporary drama. That ending is best suited open-ended. We don't know if she actually leaves the husband. We don't know if she actually brings the baby. We don't know if she actually loses the friend. We don't know. All we know is that she is a better person for the challenges that she or he went through. So open endings are better with contemporary because it holds a mirror up to society. Yes, in reality, when we go through hardships, we learn. But that is no guarantee that everything in our life is going to be perfectly perfect after we already got this realization. It have some people, they realize that, I need to do better in my life. I need to have more faith in myself. I need to be more disciplined. They may start a business and the business fail. Right? That would be a close ending. I start a business and the business is successful and that is so wonderful. That is mimetic. But with open endings, you have an impressionistic narrative where you start the business and even if the business fails, we have faith in the character that they can go on to fix that, or they will not let that deter them, or they'll be able to overcome that. In fantasy, closed endings again is very, very good for fantasy. Why? Fantasy is much like action and adventure. It is magical. We want to see how evil loses in the end. We want to see how good is able to triumph. We want to hear what are the spells that were used. We want to hear who is the magician who won. We want to hear what is the creature that was able to defeat the evil. So for fantasy closed endings, we want to hear exactly how the battle was won. On the opposite end of the fantasy now, we have our children's stories, right? Those little fables. Now in the end, we know how the wolf ended up with the 3 little pigs. He boiled in the water, right? We know Cinderella lived happily ever after. We know that Little Red Riding Hood, the hunter hacked the grandma out of the wolf's belly and all of that. We know exactly what is the image that happens in the end. So for children's stories, closed endings are very important, right? So when you are writing your particular narrative, if you're writing something that is more based on real life, you can choose to have an open ending or you can choose to have a closed ending. It all depends on what you want to have delivered to your audience. Do you want them to feel happy in the quality that is being reinforced in the motif, or do you want them to feel happy in the image of happiness that you are presenting in the end? Both of these endings require description. When you are describing the characteristic of the person, you have to make that same character. You can't be reporting, oh, she was happy, she was sad, she was strong. We have to build up the emotion. Same way with the closed ending, we have to build up the image of happiness. Now, CSEC would usually give you an image. Sometimes they'll give you an image. And it may be somebody smiling. It may be something that you can use in the end. Remember to always give full description of that image. If somebody is holding an umbrella, somebody is holding a goat, somebody is holding a briefcase, outdoors in front of a building, near to a car, with a cell phone, in a plaid dress, give all of that image and you can use that as your closed ending, right? Or sometimes CSEC may give you a line and they will tell you, write something that is inspired by the line. That line can be used as part of your open ending, depending on what it says. So it all depends on how you want your story to end and what you want. Kanila, what type of ending you particularly like? Which ending you prefer? Okay, Anto, which ending you prefer? You prefer a happy ending. So your happy ending may look more like a closed ending where you paint the image of happiness. You paint everything working out in the end. So when you are doing your fall in action, you have to make sure to hype up the image of success. Kanila, you still don't know? You like to know exactly what happened, or you like to fill in the gap. Because when you do an open ending, this is what happens when you do an open ending. Your audience can identify with the character. Meaning, your audience can fill in the blanks of what they think happiness means for the character. So Susie having faith in herself could mean that she goes on to be a millionaire, or it can simply mean that she just gets the job. Right? A simple 9-to-5 job so she can pay her bills. So it allows your reader now to put themselves in the situation to come up with an ending. Because, you know, sometimes you may watch a movie or you read a book and you don't like the ending, and you say, if it been me, I would have so and so and so. And you create a different ending. So with closed endings, sometimes that's what happens. You create too much of an image that maybe the audience may find underwhelming. Like they read the story and they don't like the image in the end. So that is one thing that works with the open ending versus the closed ending. But then with the open ending, sometimes people like to know. They like to know exactly that things worked out. They like to know that things work out. So therefore, they would not like a closed ending because they may say, I don't like how that ended. I will do this instead. So it's not a right or a wrong type of ending. It's just what you like. Don't write any endings for me because I will take any ending that you write. So it has to be one that you feel will be most impactful based on how you formulated your story. If your story is about a lot of imagery, visual imagery, focus on a closed ending. If it is more a lot about feelings, a lot of impressionistic narrative, focus on an open ending. Okay? So I have to give you your X. That was what you were supposed to do today. But your X is coming.